Yesterday was my birthday, and I was out a little later than normal. It was nice to really celebrate a birthday for a change. And I celebrated at Asia SF in San Francisco where, oh my goodness, the performance was amazing. The food was great. The drinks were wonderful. The people were wonderful. But what I most enjoyed about being at Asia SF last night is that they require that every customer who comes through the door shows proof of vaccination. And so I felt a little bit safer when I was there last night. And today's announcement is really about making sure that people feel a little bit safer in our city. But more importantly, what we're seeing now with this virus is very challenging and of great concern to me, and I know many of you as well. But let's take it back just a little bit. The fact is that we should be proud as San Franciscans. When I asked you all over a year ago to shelter in place and to just basically change your entire lives to support one another and to ensure that this virus didn't spread, you all, many San Franciscans and people throughout the Bay Area, you answered the call, you stepped up, you did your part. Our healthcare workers showed up to the hospitals to take care of those who unfortunately contracted the virus and landed in the hospital. But ultimately, we saw the very best of the people of this city. And now we need just a little bit more. And again, going back to where we are, we've seen in this city, 78% of people in San Francisco have been fully vaccinated. That is still more than any place else in the country. And I know the rest of you all are coming kicking and screaming, but let me explain why this is so important. It's important because kids under the age of 12 cannot be vaccinated. So we have to make sure that we're protecting them. It's important because there are still people who are elderly and sick and those with underlying health conditions that may not even be eligible for the vaccine. We're doing this for them. So the reason why we're here today is because we're actually following the lead of small businesses, and in particular, many VARs in San Francisco that decided on their own, we're going to require proof of vaccination before you enter our bar. And the reason why we're here at Vaccination is because the owner, wherever she is, somewhere, there you go, Janet Clyde, she took it the extra step. She took a lot of heat for it. She said, I want to keep my customers and my employees safe. So I'm going to do this despite how challenging it was, how it impacted her business, because she put the health and safety of the people of this city and her customers and her employees before anything else. That's what being a good San Franciscan is all about. And so we appreciate you letting us be here at this historic location to recognize that we really are in this together. And because this Delta variant has been so brutal, I don't know about you, but when the virus first happened and over that time period, I knew less people at that time who actually got the virus. And there are a bunch of folks that I know now who have, in some cases, been vaccinated that have contracted COVID because the Delta variant is just that more contagious. And we are not out of the woods as it relates to COVID. We're still going through it. Yes, we're sick and tired of it, but it's not sick and tired of us. It is still coming back with a vengeance. We're seeing 263 new cases every day. We have at least 107 people right now that are in the hospital, and those people are actually younger, in some cases, than what previously existed. And Dr. Colfax will tell you that people are like, well, if I'm going to get COVID anyway, and why should I get vaccinated? Well, it's the difference between being home for a couple of days and having sniffles, right, Dr. Colfax? Or being in the hospital on a respirator where you can't breathe. That's the difference, and this is real. And I know it's hard to just really understand sometimes when you don't completely see it. But those folks who are working in those hospitals every day, where their loved ones can't even come to visit them, where in some cases they can't talk, where in this past year and a half, there have been people who have died who've not even been able to have funerals. When we think about those sorts of things, how can we not do our part to do better, to get vaccinated, to make sure we're protecting one another, to make sure we're protecting our children because they can't get vaccinated? So why are we here today? Well, part of it is we're taking our steps around vaccinations just a little bit further. And starting August 20th, you will need proof of vaccination in businesses for your customers in high contact areas like bars, restaurants, clubs, theaters, entertainment venues, indoor gyms and fitness, and large indoor events with more than 1,000 people. By October 13th, employees at these establishments must be vaccinated as well. So all of the employees need to show proof of vaccination by October 13th to their employer. Now, to be clear, this will not include people or kids who are under the age of 12 because they can't get vaccinated. So what we don't want folks to think is a family of 4 with 2 kids that are 6 or 7 years old, that you can't go to a restaurant. You can, because we know that your children cannot be vaccinated and will not have the ability to show proof, but the parents will need to. And this does not impact those who are coming to pick up to-go orders. So we know there's a lot of folks who get deliveries and folks who do to-go orders and want to eat at home. So this won't impact that. And as I said, why are we doing this? It's to protect the workers. It's to protect kids. It's to protect those who can't get vaccinated. It's to make sure that we don't go backwards. It's to make sure that I never have to get up in front of you and say, I'm sorry, I know we just reopened and now the city's closed again because we are seeing too many people die. So to find out information about getting vaccinated, go to sf.gov/getvaccinated. And the details of the new vaccination requirement is at sf.gov/vaxrequired. You can always call 311 if you have any questions or need any additional information. But this is an important step towards our recovery. I saw on the news, Hamilton just opened and people were there with smiles in their faces. Underneath the mask, I saw the high cheekbones. I know you guys know what that looks like. And it felt good. There was someone who was in tears, being able to see a live performance. I don't know about you, but when I went out to Asia SF and the women who performed there, like to be able to be that up close for a performance, to be out in the city, to go to a restaurant, to see people again. There was a time we could not do this. So if we want to continue down this path, if we want to continue to open, to make sure that people are healthy, to make sure we're protected, to make sure that we're in a good place as a city from a public health perspective, so that our economy can really recover to its fullest extent, then we all have to do our part. We need to get vaccinated. We need to make sure that we are respectful to the businesses that ask us to put on our mask or to produce your vaccination card. We need to continue to have grace as we deal with one of the most challenging times of our lives, something none of us ever expected. And yes, I know it's been an inconvenience, but think about those people who have died. And count your blessings that it is not you, because you're standing right here. And let's make sure that it isn't you in the future. And let's make sure that it isn't anyone else in the future, because that's what this is about. Making sure that now that we have a vaccine, which we didn't anticipate at this time in such a rapid turnaround, that we take full advantage of it, because that's going to make the difference for us. And I want to thank a couple of folks here joining us, including Rodney Fong from the San Francisco Chamber. Thank you for being here. Sharky Laguana from the Small Business Commission. Thank you so much for your work and advocacy, as well as I think Glory Thomas is here from the Golden Gate Restaurant Association. Thank you. And we have a couple of other folks joining us. I think Ben Blyman is going to say a few words representing the bar owners here today. It was not, I mean, Asia SF is somewhat like a bar. It's a bar, performance, food, they have it all. So it's like the perfect bar space where you get everything. Anyway, Ben is here to talk a little bit about that. Mary Ellen Carroll is here from the Department of Emergency Management to answer any questions. And I think, who else is here? Like I said, it was a long night. And right now I'm going to call up Dr. Grant Colfax to talk a little bit about the specifics of our health order, what the plans are, and just thank you all so much for being here, and thank you all so much for continuing to do your very best to comply with these very complicated, sometimes numerous health orders, but they will keep us safe and they will save lives. Thank you so much.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Mayor Breed, for your steadfast leadership as we continue to navigate responding to COVID-19 as a city. And thank you, Janet and Vesuvio, for your important efforts to bring us towards recovery from this pandemic. And I want to thank Dr. Navina Baba, our acting health officer, who worked very hard on these orders, and of course for Director Mary Ellen Carroll for your ongoing partnership in this response. The business community has been an important partner in our efforts ever since the early days of the pandemic, which is now well over a year and a half. From capacity limits to masking requirements to everything in between, you have responded and adapted to the many new ways of doing business throughout. And for that, we thank you. I look out at all the new outdoor dining spots and walk up these days, and I'm so pleased to see the way San Francisco has adapted and come back to life. Even in just the last few months, the difference is palpable. Our ability to adapt, change, and respond will serve us well, because even as we beat back this disease, we also know that COVID-19 will be with us in some capacity for the foreseeable future. We are now in a new phase of the pandemic. And even as we see a surge of cases, we have the powerful tool to fight this disease and to keep ourselves and each other safe. The vaccines. Let's use them. The updates to our Safer Return Together health order are designed to make sure that we can continue to keep businesses open and enjoy our lives in San Francisco safely, even as we face the Delta variant and potentially other variants to come. We know that the main ways this virus spread is through high contact indoor settings where people are at close range. It also spreads easily where people are breathing heavily indoors. It's simply common sense. It makes sense to require proof of vaccination in indoor settings where food and drink is served, like restaurants and bars, and where aerobic exercise is happening, like gyms and fitness establishments, and where many people gather, like at indoor venues of 1,000 people or more. We believe we will continue to make a major difference in lowering the spread of COVID-19 with a common sense solution of vaccines. The vaccines continue to work remarkably well, especially in dramatically lowering the risk of hospitalization and death from COVID-19. The vaccines are our armor. They are our life jackets. They are our parachutes. They are our way out of this pandemic. For anyone wondering how they will comply with the proof of vaccination requirement, the good news is that we have made the vaccine exceedingly easy to get. For instance, DPH launched a Vax to You campaign last week that will literally bring a mobile vaccination team to your home or business if you have at least 5 people ready to get the vaccine. We ask businesses to please take advantage of that. And you can go to sf.gov/vax2u for more information. And of course, I want to emphasize, you can continue to get the vaccine from your healthcare provider or at a pharmacy or at our many drop-in sites across the city. We are also ready and on hand to make sure businesses have all the tools, signage, and support needed to implement the new vaccine requirements. While today's announcement applies to these specific kinds of businesses, we also encourage all businesses in the city to do their part and require their employees and patrons to get vaccinated as soon as possible. For anyone who is on the fence about getting vaccinated or hasn't made the time, we very much hope that the incentive of eating at your favorite restaurant in San Francisco or grabbing a drink will remove any barriers that you may have to getting vaccinated. The vaccine is safe, effective, and appointments are readily available. And just a reminder that even if you've already had COVID-19, we in the CDC strongly recommend that you get fully vaccinated. Thank you. And with that, I'd like to introduce Ben Blyman, head of the San Francisco Bar Owners Alliance, and an early leader in requiring vaccinations at bars and encouraging others to join. Ben, thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say happy birthday to Mayor Breed. Happy birthday. Second of all, I just want to thank Mayor Breed for her leadership throughout the pandemic. This has been a really, really tough time for small businesses. For many of us, it's the worst year and a half of our professional lives. And I can't say how grateful we are to have somebody in the highest leadership in San Francisco who actually cares about us and doesn't just help us when it's politically expedient to do so. Time and time again, the mayor has shown that she truly cares about our issues and is willing to go to the mat for us over and over again. So thank you very much for that. I just want to call that out. About 3 to 4 weeks ago, the San Francisco bar owners started to notice alarming cases of breakthrough infections with staff members of ours. These are vaccinated individuals working in bars who suddenly were coming down with COVID. Thankfully, none of the cases were very serious. There were no hospitalizations, but it was enough to give us pause and to have a robust conversation. In that conversation, 3 things came up that I noticed, and it was a very robust conversation. One was how scared we were for the health of our staff members. Specifically, we have a lot of staff members who have young children. We have a lot of staff members who take care of elderly parents. And the idea that they could bring something home that could put them in danger was very scary for us and very real. We have a sacred obligation to our staff members. We know that, we feel that way, and that was really, really first and foremost in our minds. The second was the impact it was having on our businesses. If somebody comes down with COVID, even if they don't go to the hospital, they're out for at least 10 days, often more. And we're having a staffing shortage already across the U.S. So this has serious impacts on our ability to do business. I myself had to close a bar for a night because my bartender got COVID at a different job of his, and we were unable to find coverage. So we're having a real world impact on us. And the third thing that really came up was the frustration that we felt as a community. For the first year of the pandemic, we were fighting an uncontrollable virus. It could be sort of managed, but it was kind of out of control. And we kind of had this sense of fatalism, but that was no longer the case. This is controllable now. And the bar owners were very vociferous in their feelings about individuals who can get vaccinated and are not. And the frustration was palpable. These people were messing up our livelihoods. They were putting everybody else in danger. And it was something that came up, and we floated the idea, what if we just don't let them inside? After a poll we did, over 80% of our membership responded that they would like to go through with that, and we declared that we would only allow vaccinated individuals to hang out indoor at our establishments. It made a lot of news, but in actual practice, it actually was a little bit of a nothing burger. If anything, almost every single person who walked through our doors that we're hearing about was happy about it. They were thrilled, they were thankful, they felt safer. The only pushback we got was mostly online from a bunch of remarkably moronic right-wing trolls whose trolling was so bad I could hopefully teach them a little bit about how to troll correctly. That said, we've gone through with it. It works. It's helping to decrease the exposure for our staff members and their families and help our businesses. We know that unvaccinated individuals are 8 times more likely to contract and spread coronavirus, and we need to make sure that we keep them from exposing our staffs and their families as much as we can. Even though there wasn't much pushback, we still kind of felt like we were on an island as a group. We didn't do it thinking other people would follow. We didn't do it to change hearts and minds. If hearts and minds do change, that's fantastic. But we did it just to protect our staff and their families and try to help our businesses. But the fact that San Francisco is doing this now is a huge, huge thing for us. We're not alone anymore. The city is making a bold statement. If you want to participate in our society fully, if you want to be able to cough into the mouths of other people around you in close, tight areas, you must be vaccinated indoors if you're going to do that. The fact that we're not alone is a huge, huge, huge benefit to us. And I thank the city of San Francisco for going through with this. It's a giant deal for us. So thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Ben, and thank you to all the bar owners in San Francisco. Thank you to Vesuvio and Janet in particular for your leadership and your work and advocacy. And as I said, the bars did this a couple of weeks ago, and the city is following their lead, which I think is truly remarkable. The example that they're setting and what we're doing to keep people safe is most important at this time. And with that, I'll open it up to questions from the press.